my name is Jason J. Rock Houston, and you're listening to Catacris Magazine. We can be found on the web at www.catacris.com. And our special guest today is Sean Peck from the bands Cage and Death Dealer and the Three Tremors. But we're going to be talking to him today specifically about Death Dealer's new album, Conquerlands, coming out November 13th. Is that right, Sean?
Yes, can't wait. We're just getting this whole press run started. You're one of the first.
Well, thanks. I really do appreciate it. And in regards to that, I want to let all the Sean Peck fans know out there that, in case they aren't aware, you have a mailing list that you recently put out. You want to let your fans know about that?
Which list?
You know, the mailing list, the email list?
Oh, yeah. We have an email list at steelcartel.com, or you can just PM your email address to any of the bands, and everybody that's on the email list gets like free songs and exclusive, advanced stuff. Like when the lyric video came out for Sorcerer Supreme on the Death Dealer, 2 days before it came out to the public, everybody on the email list got it, and they got a free MP3 of the song. So
yeah, pretty cool stuff,
Yeah,
that's why I want people to know about it.
It's not just some lame list to get on it.
Yeah.
To solicit, we're into giving people free stuff so they can find out cool stuff in advance and cool exclusive stuff to the email list that other people don't get too.
Yeah, that's why I want people to know about it, because I was pretty impressed with the stuff you sent out so far. And now, like we said, the album comes out November 13th, and on that note, I want to I also see that you're going to have like a limited run of vinyl. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, we're the Steel Cartel thing is the king. We call ourselves the kings of the physical medium.
Yeah.
So we're all about the physical. We think that heavy metal is like a nice pair of tits. It feels best when it's in your hands.
Yeah.
When you can hold it in your hands. I stole that from Stan Lee. That's what he said about comic books. Rest in peace.
Well.
And so we go to extra lengths to make like all our stuff just look,
Yeah, I'll tell you, I'm kind of old school like that. I mean, I miss the days of going to the record store, and I used to spend hours and probably, just a couple of days a week going just because I used to love to go to Tower Records. I'm sure, you know what I'm talking about. Kids today, they want everything, just immediately. But I know you're into.
And also on that note, like this album, only 3 songs, which are songs that are all coming out on music videos or lyric videos, will stream at all. So if you want to hear this album, you have to purchase it. It's not going to be on YouTube. It's not going to be on Spotify. It's not going to be on any of the streaming platforms, period.
That's interesting because, I recently discovered that, like, if you go on YouTube, you can find, like, a lot of the full-length albums, on there to just kind of, if you want to check out. Like, the other day I went on there and I was checking out Rock-A-Rolla by Judas Priest. That's the very first Priest album. It's kind of an interesting album in the sense that, if you go back and listen to that, Priest, they sound nothing like what Priest sound today, but you could see the potential that was in the band at the time, So, but I urge people to go out and support your bands and buy this stuff. And I love that you have a record label that has that attitude that, we're all about the physical product. And I'm sure a big part of that is because Steel Cartel is your independent label that you put the stuff out on. And so, who's going to do a better job of promoting your music, Sean, than you,
Right. I mean, we're running, I think, 10 half-page magazine ads in print magazines and the 10 biggest magazines in Europe. So we, no other record label is going to do that for us. So we go the extra mile. But as far as the physical product goes, I mean, there's the booklet just in the digipack alone is a 16-panel.
Oh, wow.
Custom artwork on every page.
Yeah.
We have the best looking booklets in the business, and you see the cover art, how everyone just freaked out on how killer the cover art looks. And we've got shirts, and now the cool thing we did on the package for this, we have a new product, a 3D lenticular card, where it's that album cover. Lenticular, for those people listening don't know, is those kind of 3D prints you hold in your hand and you flip it kind of left and right. The image changes and it looks like it's in 3D, and it came out killer. So that's a really cool piece that's going in the the pre-order package. And we just try, like every new release, we just try and put like cool stuff. And me as a comic book freak and a metal freak, like I just think as a fan, like what would be cool, what would I want in a package? And that's what we kind of do.
That's the best way to do it.
Good. We give good value too. We try and keep the price like as absolute low as possible, and that's why this pre-order's been doing so good. People are like, oh my god, we get for this price, we get all this. So it's we get a high level of value. We're not trying to frickin' milk everybody for every last cent. We want the hardcore
metal fans,
and then the music is gonna blast your face off while you're looking at all this cool stuff.
Now let me ask you, as far as the artwork, you're very much an artist. I know, like you draw a lot of his stuff, right? Like for example,
no.
Oh really?
No.
Okay, I thought you.
I come up with a lot of the concepts.
Okay.
I've worked with the artists. I can imagine it.
Yeah.
And I have an extensive comic book collection, so I come from having read thousands and thousands of comics over my life. So I work with these artists and, really push to get the best out of them.
Oh.
Dusan Markovic did this cover, and, he hadn't really done an Egyptian kind of vibe yet.
Yeah.
And so, I try and get these artists in their out of their comfort zone, and then that kind of gets the best results.
And now for Death Dealer, is this the third or the fourth album?
This is the third album, and this album was kind of like 80% done probably 3 or 4 years ago, and then we all got off on our own
projects,
and then Stu and I and Ross got together and finally finished it, and then we just kept writing, and we're still writing, and we have. Truth be told, the fourth Death Dealer album is already finished, and the fifth Death Dealer album is almost done too.
Oh wow! So I guess
there's a ton of Death Dealer coming down the pipe.
I guess you took a lot of
Conquered Lands.
You a lot of advantage of this COVID-19 lockdown, doing all this stuff, huh?
Yeah, I mean, there's, I think I've done like 50 songs recorded since April.
So do you just have
between Death Dealer, the new Cage album, and the new Three Tremors album, and a bunch of other stuff. So I've been busy. I haven't stopped, man. That's we aren't really practicing much, so keeping my voice sharp has been mostly in the recording studio.
Yeah, you never, you never are not busy. I mean, as long as I've known you, you're always working on something, and one of the busiest guys I know. And so that must get hard. Like, talk about the songs on this new Death Dealer. I mean. Were a lot of these songs, like you said, already written? Was any of the stuff left over from the last album or the one before?
Yeah, there was one song that was left over from Hollow Ground called, Hail to the King. I know there's been 20 Hail to the King songs made, but I think this is probably the best Hail to the King song.
Yeah.
I think we're going to take the title once people hear this on Killer Guitar Riffs and that one. But the rest of them, we kind of wrote brand new. It's really cool. I mean, the reaction to our first single, Sorcerer Supreme, was really good. That was another Marvel Comics release. And then we have a music video coming out for a song called Running with the Wolves, which is kind of a, hey, we're a badass heavy metal band, kind of vibe. There's a really powerful ballad, and Ross thinks the best song on the album is this ballad that we got, which is called 22 Gone, and that's about soldier suicide in the United States. Like, supposedly 22 U.S. military people commit suicide a day. So Stu sent me this acoustic piece, and I tried to write the most depressing song I could think of, and we did really good with that one. And the rest of them are pretty much fast and just ripping. So I don't know if you've heard the whole album yet. But,
I haven't had a chance, but let me ask you, like, the ballad. Kind of interesting that Ross the Boss is going to sing that one. Is that just because?
No, he's not singing.
Oh, I thought I misheard you. Okay, I'm sorry. So is that kind of different for you to do a ballad?
Yeah, I like a good power ballad, not one that's just a throwaway kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't do it just to do it right.
This one came out amazing, man. We were going to do a video for it, and then we decided not to, but it sure could use a video. But some of the pre-press that we've heard, they've even unsolicited comments about it, like, dude, that song. And so some, like I said, I expect people to be hanging themselves from a ceiling fan after they listen to it.
That's so different from what people would expect of you, but at the same time, I think it also shows them, hey, I'm more than just a metal guy. I can do this too,
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely metal. I mean, there's some big wailing going on in it, and some really tasty leads and stuff. But the rest of the album is pretty heavy and pretty fast.
So, like, let me ask you, as far as, you got two powerhouse guitar players like Ross and Stu Marshall. So, like, do you consider them, like, both lead guitar players, or how do they kind of cut their parts? Is it just kind of whoever wrote the riff, or?
No, man, it's, most of the songs have two leads, one for Ross and one for Stu.
Yeah.
When it's a big feel part, we'll go, hey, let's just let Ross take this whole thing. They're both really, when I got it, when we started Death Dealer, I didn't know much about Ross. I was not that big of a Manowar fan necessarily.
Okay. Yeah.
But I learned Stu, can just shred the hell out of the guitar and just writes killer riffs.
Yeah.
And then I really, learned being on tour with Ross and writing with Ross, where the Ross the Boss magic is. I mean, he comes up with melodies, just out of his freaking soul, like on the fly. They're just incredible. And the way his fingers, make that guitar sing, that he's definitely deserved of the magic. At first, I was like, he's a pioneer and shit. But then being on stage with him and just seeing and discovering what the whole Ross the Boss, magic hype was about, like, oh, okay, now I get it.
So let me ask you, going back to the formation of Death Dealer, the fact that you just stated you didn't know that much about Ross, how did you guys initially hook up, and how did the band first come together?
Well, Stu and I had done, he had a thing called Empires of Eden, where he had a bunch of singers sing different songs, which is really good. People should check that out. And, we kind of became friends. I did a couple songs, and we kind of hit it off. And then, he was always like, man, we need to. And at that time, I was just like, I get everything I need out of Cage. I don't need another band.
Yeah.
And then, I think we were drinking a few beers one night, and he's like, dude, we need, we started like doing a fantasy football band lineup, like who could we get?
Oh wow!
And so, and as we were like literally Skyping each other, I was sending out like private messages to these people, like, "Hey man, do you want to be in our band?" And Stu had the name Death Dealer, which at that there's an older power metal band from Canada called Death Dealer that released a few albums. It's actually really good, but they had abandoned the trademark and they weren't active, so we're like, okay, let's take the name.
Yeah.
And I hit up Ross, and he's like, hey, okay, I'll be in your band. And then, we got Rhino initially, who was Manowar. He wanted to do it. And then we were trying to think, like, what kind of bass player, we could get that anyone would give a shit about. Yeah. And we had just been hanging out with Mike Davis from Halford, and he's like, okay, yeah, I'm in. So we had a lineup just by goofing around on the phone, and all these people saying, I'm in the band, and me and Stu were just laughing like, oh shit, now we gotta write some songs.
Now let me ask you, you said that you didn't know that much about Ross, although I'm sure you heard of, Ross the Boss from Manowar, but when you contacted it, did he have any idea about you or who you were?
Yeah, we had kind of been friends on Facebook, and traded messages and stuff, but he was kind of, not doing much at the time, and it was a great kick in the ass for him, and he absolutely loves Death Dealer. I mean, we did a few shows in California and Mexico, and then a few months later we did a 10-city arena tour where we were the biggest arena in the city, opening for the Metal All Stars. So it was incredible. We went from just starting the band to playing giant arena shows with 5,000 to 10,000 people a night, and people were just loving it.
Oh wow, that's kind of interesting. Yeah, you got the Metal All Stars
instantly,
and then you guys. That's another Metal All Star band, and
like I said, these shows, like, no one had a clue who the hell we were at all. Playing in Moscow, and then by 2 songs in, the place was freaking out. So we came up with some really good songs. There's some really good chemistry on stage. And, and now we have Mike LaPond as the bass player. So Mike LaPond's probably one of the best bass players on earth, and he did incredible on the recordings for.
And how did you guys find him?
Well, Ross stole the Death Dealer drummer for his Ross the Boss band, Steve Bolognese.
Yeah.
And So we in turn stole his bass player. So
yeah. Oh, cool.
One good turn deserves another.
Yeah.
He's
and
plays in the Ross the Boss band. But I was never, every album I do, like the bass tracks are just kind of there.
Yeah.
This is like the first time
Had a real
I heard these bass tracks where it like just made incredible melodies and notes and spots like you wouldn't think. And so super musical dude. He really added a lot to this album.
Well, and I never knew that story about the Death Dealer, but the fact there's another band. But I will say this, knowing that now, you guys have made such an impression on the metal community that as far as, most metal fans know, you guys are the only Death Dealer that most people know about, So that kind of says it all.
But, props to those guys.
Oh, yeah.
The stuff is actually pretty good. So, but this Death Dealer is all over the place in the media and got some high-profile players in it, and since the last album, my profile's probably risen a little bit because of the Tremor stuff, and Ross the Boss band's really hot right now, so we're getting a lot of great reaction that the whole Death Dealer thing is back with the Conquered Lands album.
I mean, it's interesting because, like you said, when you first got approached by Stu about putting a band together, you initially I don't need another band besides Cage, but how happy are you the way things turned out? Because it gives you another outlet, like you said, to kind of do different types of stuff,
Well, Stu is great to work with because me and him, he calls us the Lennon and McCartney of metal. Because, like we come up with such good shit together. And he's really fast. Like we'll do a Skype session, and like he comes up with a riff, I start humming a melody, and we start piecing it together, and then he pieces it together on his computer with the drum tracks and everything. I mean, so like 10 minutes we got a song basically. And we recently did a live stream where we did an experiment. I think it went like 2 hours because it was going so good. Where we let everyone watch as me and him wrote a song from scratch. Yeah. And it was really cool, and everyone loved it, and that song actually came out good. That's going to be probably on the 5th Death Dealer record. So
cool.
That was it was kind of an social experiment, like nothing pre-planned. Let's just start from scratch, and it came out cool. What's
sad is a lot of that live streaming stuff is cool, but I've heard since starting next week, October 1st, because Facebook has seen how successful this stuff is. They're not going to allow any bands to do any more live streaming events because I guess they want a piece of the pie. Another way to screw to the musicians, Well,
it's someone will fill the void. Yeah. There's all kinds of platforms coming up for the streaming stuff, but I haven't been. We've been asked to do a bunch of streaming stuff, and we haven't. I don't know. I'm a little mixed emotion. I'm definitely not going to stream something from my bedroom, but
no.
But writing a song, just raw, that was cool. I mean, if Judas Priest said, "Hey, do you want to sit in and listen, and watch us, jam and create a new track?" I'd watch that.
Oh yeah,
I'd pay to watch that.
I think that's the cool thing. It's more than you just like in your bedroom, like you said. It's something that a lot of people haven't done. Like a songwriting session. That's kind of a unique thought on your part. And let me ask you, a little down the line, do you think, I know a lot of people don't buy this stuff anymore, but have you ever thought about maybe down the line having a Death Dealer like DVD or something come out, like of a live performance, or have you guys in the studio like creating the music or something like that?
We have some insane footage from this Russia show. There's going to be some of it's going to be on our Running with the Wolves video, but the audio is just not up to par.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
That's always the trick is,
getting the
live footage and then the audio. If you're not recording every track, you can't really make it, worthy. But we have something, a really cool
down the line
video idea product thing that's going to be coming out with the Death Dealer 4 album. That's going to be very, very another unique concept that I think fans are going to fucking absolutely love. So
let me ask you, with all this COVID-19 lockdown stuff and you unable to go out and perform live, do you think by the time you're able to get out there and perform live, we might have at least one of these other Death Dealer records out,
Well, yeah, the the fourth Death Dealer album's going to definitely come out, third quarter next year.
Oh wow! See, you just putting the stuff out there.
It'll be right around the corner from this one, so people will be just hyped on Death Dealer, and we're going to hit them in the face with another one right away.
Yeah, and we hope at least by that point you're able to go out and do this stuff live, because by that point you're going to have two new albums worth of material to perform.
Yeah, and we really didn't perform much live off the second album too. So there's
and I got
picking a set's going to be like impossible.
And I got to say, I'm sure this is because you have your own record label and that, but I got to thank you, because I think it's cool that you can, even during this downtime, you continue to put out new music, because there are some bands that were supposed to have stuff come out and they've held off on releasing. Oh, we're not going to release anything during this lockdown time. And if you can't get out there and tour, I think it's cool for the fans to at least give them some, an album worth of new music, so they have something kind of check the band out in the meantime.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can only sit on this music for so long. The Three Tremors album is pretty much done too, and we're just trying to figure out when we're going to put that out. So that's another killer one that's coming up.
Yeah, and again, people think of ideas like I've never seen. I mean, you had the idea for the Three Tremors, as people know, because that's an idea that they had like 25, 30 years ago, that Bruce Dickinson, Halford, and Jeff Tate were going to do something together. They never copyrighted. They never did anything with the idea. And you said, okay, that's a good idea. And that's how you formed that band. And then I love the title of a new Three Tremors album, T2. People think of Terminator 2, but how simple is that? It is what it is.
I'm totally against all those albums where they name them T3 or 3 or 5.
Yeah.
Or that just means people have run out of ideas, and I don't know.
Well, but again, like when I heard T2, like a lot of people, they're probably going to think of Terminator 2. But I thought, okay, I think of Terminator 2, but that also for the Three Tremors, that says what this is, and it's so cool. You kind of use that.
Yeah, well, we have, we're already the 3T, so.
Yeah.
You'll never see me do an album that's called The Number or some shit, just because I couldn't think of anything. No, that's one of my cardinal metal rules.
Yeah. That's kind of interesting. And so
one of the other ones is like when you can't think of any idea for the album cover imagery, you just put a pentagram on it.
Yeah.
That's the other cop out move.
Yeah. So, what's the craziest thing, talking about stuff like that, what's the craziest thing you've ever heard about yourself, or, craziest rumor that's ever gone around about Sean Peck, or something that you read? You say, hey, I don't know how that got it.
Craziest rumor about me? I don't know. I don't know that there's any. I don't know that there's any. Well, I don't think I'm popular enough to have any crazy rumors.
It's funny you say that, because I mean, I've followed you on Facebook, as last several years, and and I think a lot of people have, and you got a cool little fan base of your own. But like you're right, you're not like an Axl Rose or anybody like that that's constantly having stuff printed up about him. And is that something you set out to do? Like I don't want to get my name in the press necessarily like that. I'm just going to go in and make my music. People can judge that.
Well, I mean, I've had controversy. I mean, when I got in the fight with Blaze Bayley, that was big news all over the world.
Calm down since then, yeah.
And now we're good buddies. I love Blaze.
Oh, wow.
And when the Three Tremors thing came out, I mean, the one blabbermouth headline says Sean Peck said Bruce Dickinson can use the Three Tremors name if he wants to. It was just good to see my name in the same headline as Bruce Dickinson. Yeah, that was a milestone for my career there, just on its own.
And that's kind of funny too, because people are going to say stuff like that because of what the Three Tremors originally was. But you're the one that had the brains to kind of go with that idea. This is what it was supposed to be, but this is what it became. Yeah,
it was funny. Like we did almost 70 shows with the Tremors so far, and we were that last show we did. We headlined the Hard Rock Hell Festival in England, and that was probably our best show. We're still just getting it all super tight, and that show was freaking awesome. That Blaze, speaking of Blaze, he got up on stage and sang with us that night.
Oh, how cool is that?
But that whole during the interview process, people were like, well, what about that? They're asking Ripper, like, well, that was the name of, you stole the name. And Ripper's like, I missed that album. When did that album come out? He's like, I missed that album, making fun of it. Yeah. Just there was never any record. They never did anything. So,
yeah. And
Yeah.
And I know you'd originally met Ripper when Cage had opened years ago when he was in Judas Priest. So that's probably where you kind of got to know him. But would you say working with him, you've really gotten to know him a lot more than you did back then?
Oh, cool. I mean, now we're like, texting each other all the time, going, dude, did you see the picture for the, we're talking baseball and all kinds of non-metal stuff, all the time. And, there's all kinds of, me and Ripper became friends. Me being like a Ripper fanboy, and now it's kind of like how he describes when he got with Priest, like, you can't be a fan. I'm so good as you lose your crazy fanboyness over the person, and that's how he was with Priest. And now me and Ripper, we've spent so many miles together, been on so many stages through so many situations. I mean, we had the last show of the U.S. tour, car breaks down, we're stuck in the middle of nowhere with Amish buggies going back and forth, no Uber out there, no frickin' buses, nothing. And I like flag down some people, like, I'll give you $100 to drive us to Pittsburgh. And like somehow I convinced some people to drive us 100 miles to Pittsburgh. We make the show, and me and him, running down the freeway. And so we've had some insane adventures in just the young lifespan of the band already. So it's been a blast.
I'll tell you the thing that intrigues me the most about the Three Tremors is you hear tons of people always saying, lead singers, they suffer from lead singer disease, and you got three multi-talented singers in that band, and it seems like nobody in the band has an ego or anything. I mean, as far as trying to outdo each other, you guys seem like you really get along like brothers and have a great chemistry, and I think that's why it works.
Yeah, I mean, it's we kind of did the thing where when we're all holding at a note, when one guy ends, everybody ends. We're not trying to keep the note going while the other guy's singing the note, and it's a lot of no pressure, because if your voice is thrash that night, you got two other guys to cover, so it makes it really a fun touring experience, because you don't have to stress out when you're the only singer, and if
and then at
you're feeling a little funny that day.
And then at the same time, the fact that you guys are singing those high notes, I can imagine a situation also where all three guys are kind of, their voices are kind of really a wreck. Got to take a few days off.
Well, I mean, I'm always a wreck. Ripper always says he's a wreck, and then he goes on stage and is amazing. And Harry can sing 724 without stopping and hit every note. He's just a freak. It's fucking irritating how good he is. I bet. Yeah, and so I'm just trying to hang with those two dudes.
And the other thing I dig about you, the artist, Sean, is you're one of these guys, kind of like Alice Cooper. You surround yourself with other musicians that are as equally as talented as you, and I love the way you support your bandmates. A perfect example of that is speaking of Tim Ripper Owens, I recently did a thing on my show, This Is Metal, and I know that you saw it because you shared it on the official Three Tremors page, and we thank you for that. But the point is, you saw this thing wasn't even about you; it was about your bandmate, and you're kind of putting it out there for people to see. And I also see on your Facebook page that you had something up about Tim has an official coffee brand or something like that, and you were talking about. So that's a cool way to kind of support your bandmates, and I think that's cool of you.
Absolutely. I mean, he does music, he does music for a living, and, so I'm always trying to do whatever I can to help Tim, because he's awesome. He's a cool dude, and he's out there working it hard, and now he's got, the KK thing about to bust out, so he's going to be doing well and playing some insane stuff, and it's going to be, I'm stoked for him.
I can't wait to
even though it's going to probably cock block the Tremors for a while, but we'll have to
work around it. I mean, as it is, you're working around Cage and all these other projects, and it's kind of. I think other interesting thing people may not realize about Death Dealer is like you guys don't live like right down the street from each other. A perfect example of that is Stu Marshall. I know is based out of Australia. Isn't that correct?
Yeah.
So I mean, when you guys are like doing some kind of live stream writing session or you're not in the same room together. Even recording the album, I'm sure you're sitting back, your parts, through email and stuff like people do. and it's got to be a process. What's that like? You all kind of recording an album in a kind of different parts of the world. That's got to be a unique experience.
Well, I mean, by the time the drummer and LaPon get it, the song's pretty well put together. I sang my final vocals, and Ross has done his part, and me and Stu and Ross have put the song together. So drums and bass, not a problem. But we've kind of perfected it, man. Me and Stu get on there, and we'll go. We'll come up with a song in 5 minutes, or we'll sit there for like 2 hours and do a few songs, and so it's cool the stuff we come up with. I mean, we have, like I said, Death Dealer 4 is already done. Death Dealer 5, we probably have like 11 tracks for, and then like another 5 that I still got to mess with, and so. And we were on a roll, and we're just like, hey man, you want to just keep writing? And I'm like, yeah man, I got nothing else to do. I'm sitting here in the home studio. Let's just keep writing songs. And so we got it's fun. We come up with killer stuff. I was worried about topics to write about, like, okay, what am I going to write about now? But I've been just like spitting them out one after the other. So I've been on a really good artistic role and a really good voice role during this downtime.
And so, like, what are some of the topics you did choose to write about on this?
Conquered Lands.
Yeah, Conquered Lands. No, but I said, like you said, you try to look for interesting stuff to write about, like when you do your songwriting. So, what are some of the topics you covered in?
So one of the songs, Every Nation, that's kind of about like what the world would be like if everyone was a metalhead.
Yeah, wow. I love
how metalheads are a superior life form. We don't see race, we don't see religion, we don't have. If you see someone with a freaking Iron Maiden shirt, it doesn't matter what they are, who they are, what. You're just like, you throw them the horns, and it doesn't even. The rest of it doesn't even matter. Like metal supersedes everything else, and then. There's that. Running with the Wolves is about, being a badass rock band. There's a song called Slayer Be Slain, which is kind of like Conan the Barbarian, taking the castle kind of track. Every album with Ross Boston is one of those. There's a song called Faith Under Fire, which is kind of a, you got someone looking over you type thing when the chips are down song. We talked about 22 Gone, the ballad with the soldier suicide. And then we have a song called Beauty in the Blood, which is kind of a vampire song. So and then we have a sequel to one of my favorite Death Dealer songs, Curse of the Heretic, which is called The Heretic Has Returned, which is a witch song. So this album has a song about vampires and witches. I mean, that's how metal Conquered Lands is.
This is really the thinking man's metal band, but on this album, that's interesting. And you talk about race and stuff. That's kind of interesting because you have all of this crap going on in the media and people calling other people racist. And this is and I just a good example that kind of really gets me is like the Academy, the movie Academy very recently came up with this thing. In order for a picture to even be considered for the best picture, it has to have so many black people, and there's nothing wrong with that, except for I think it's better to have something be judged on the base of what it is, as opposed to telling somebody, well, you got to do this, it's kind of crazy.
It's don't get me.
Don't get me started. Yeah, I hear you.
It's Hollywood is in their own freaking woke headspace, and the ratings for all those shows are just in the Emmys just have the lowest ratings ever.
Yeah, I mean that's a good example.
Less and less important. And I got my stepkid who's in Hollywood, and he's actually just on that Quibi show, Wireless. If people listening out there, go watch. Download Quibi on your phone and watch the show Wireless. It's got Ty Sheridan in it, who was Cyclops in the X-Men movies and in Ready Player One. Yeah. He's co-starred with him. So I hear all the Hollywood stories all the time, man.
Yeah, that's the last thing I'm going to say on the subject is Emmys is a good example. Like, when I watch a show like that, I want to be entertained. I don't want to be lectured to, what I should think or what I should do. Or you're a bad person if you do this. I want to be entertained. That's why it's good to have bands like Death Dealer. We're getting a new Death Dealer album. That's going to entertain us, a new CD. So everybody go out and buy it. And I just want to say,
DeathDealerMetal.com. DeathDealerMetal.com.
That says it all right there.
Yeah, metal is meant to be an escape, and that's why if we do sing about politics, it's veiled.
Yeah, have you ever?
Yeah, we keep it. We hide it in metaphors and stuff.
Like, have you ever talked to anybody that took your music a little too serious to the point, like, oh my God, you write all about the devil and witches and stuff like that, and like, hey man, it's just music, you know?
Well, the Cage Hell Destroyer album, was real big in the Christian rock and metal world when it came out, and that's a slippery slope because you're either not enough Christian or you're too Christian. It's like there's no winning in that circle. Yeah. So that was where we because we had some backwards talking stuff in there where like yip nip blip, and when you ran it forward, it actually said "Hail Satan" and all this stuff.
Wow.
So it actually said what you thought it would say. And a lot of the Christian rock people absolutely freaked out. But were like, "Hey man, that's part of this whole story. This is what it's a concept album, and that's part of what's going on in the story."
Glad you dig it, right? Yeah, and I couldn't let you go without asking, is there any new stuff coming out from Cage?
Yes, we've been working hard on the new Cage record. We're just finishing up this Tremors record first.
Yeah.
We've got like 2 more songs to finish up, but we have probably 6 or 7 Cage tracks already done, and then like tons of other idea stuff. So there's going to be a new Cage record next year. We're really excited about that because it's been a while.
Yeah, and I asked because I think I was reading online recently. I think it was your album Astrology or something like that that's celebrating 20 years. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was we had that just passed, and that's out of print. We're probably going to remix Supremacy of Steel and release that, and we're probably going to remix Astrology and release that because those are the ones that had their. One day I'm going to do a YouTube video and tell my astrology recording story because it's quite a tale. And speaking of that, everyone go to Steel Cartel on YouTube, youtube.com/Steel Cartel, and give us a subscribe, please. We really appreciate it. We're trying to build the channel and put cool stuff up there.
Yeah, so just a few more questions, and I'll let you go, Sean. Now, the ones you just stated that you're thinking about re-releasing, if you release any of that stuff, any idea if you'd have any bonus material, like any extra tracks?
Yeah. Always bonus material on everything.
Yeah, and I asked that because I seen.
I'm not like King Diamond.
That's what I was going to ask you.
I just put another color on the record.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that
because buy it for the 4th time.
Because I seen you comment about that. I thought, but it's true. He's re-releasing like everything, and it's just the only thing that's different is the packaging.
This time the vinyl's blue. You gotta buy it. It's amazing.
Yeah, and I think not saying anything against his music, but I think. King Diamond, if you're going to release anything, why don't you, start with a new album, and then maybe you go.
If people are holding their breath for a new King Diamond album, they should stop right now because I don't think it's ever going to happen. Yeah,
and he knows why, but it could have something to do with his health. I know he had a heart attack a number of years ago.
I think it's motivation. I don't think he's singing great. Yeah. I don't think it's. I think it's just motivation. But whatever, that's his situation.
But Sean Peck, he's got all these albums coming out in the next year, so go out and support. And then I just got to say that the single you got, Superior Supreme, great
Sorcerer
choice.
Supreme.
Sorcerer Supreme, great choice because people hear that track. I know I heard that track and I thought, wow, it's nothing but full blown on metal. That's what we want.
Comic books and metal. No one writes a superhero song like I do.
Now years ago, I don't know if you're a Kiss fan, but years ago Kiss put out in 1976 they put out this Marvel comic book, and I was
of course.
And I know what a comic book lover you are. Have you ever thought, like with Death Dealer, or even Tremors 2, of coming up with like a comic book based on any of the?
Yeah, I mean, for Hell Destroyer, we were doing a full graphic novel, and just the artist was just too slow.
Wow!
I had a killer artist. He was doing some awesome work.
Yeah.
The story was all together, and he was just so slow. We just said, "The hell with it." We had to put the album out. We just put all the images in the booklet, which were cool.
Yeah.
I'd love to do, I talked to Mark Sasto, who does all the Dio stuff and a lot of the Cage stuff, and we always talk about a graphic novel, but it's just so labor intensive. These artists hate to devote that much time to one thing.
Yeah, I know. I have this guy I know, and he's great at coming up with logos and does like great character drawings, but he is so into like detail. It takes him forever to do one
Yeah.
thing, but when it's done, it's beautiful, you know.
I'm really particular about my artwork too, so I wouldn't want any half-ass things. So.
Yeah. Well, Sean, I want to thank you for talking to me today, and this interview will probably be going up sometime next week or the following week, like in early October. I'll let you know once it's up, and you can post it on all your sites. But thanks for doing this, and I'll be talking to you.
All right, man. Talk to you
bye-bye.
later. Thanks so much.